Paul tells us three things that we need, three reasons why we can have the victory in Jesus. Number one, because Jesus invaded our world. See, one of the differences between Christianity and all other world religions, if you gel down the teaching of all other world religions, it is, here's how you get to God. Here is the path. Whether it's a five-fold path or an eight-fold path or a three-fold path, there's steps to take to make yourself worthy of God. Only Christianity says, no, God comes to you. You don't need to get to God. He came to you in the form of a man named Jesus. That's the gospel. That's why it's good news. It wouldn't be good news if it was just another list of rules and requirements. He came to us. And that's good news, especially for two reasons. Number one, it means that God is better than what we thought he was. Do you remember when you were in English class in probably 8th grade and you learned the Greek and Roman myths, Zeus and all those people? Can you imagine how horrible it would be if those gods were real? They were terrible. They were terrible people. They would be lousy people, much less gods. They were awful. And you had to be afraid of them all the time if you thought they were real. That's what humanity thought a God was like. Somebody who was easily angered, who would just squash you like a bug for fun. And then God showed up in our world in the form of Jesus, and we found out, no, he's not like that at all. No, he's a God who actually wants us to be saved and will do whatever necessary to make us saved. And he loves the people who are sinful. He loves people who are broken. He loves people who have failed. He loves people who don't think they have it in them. He loves you. That's good news. And then there's other good news about the fact that God came to us, and that's the reason why he came. See, God didn't come down because he needed a vacation from heaven. He didn't come down like a boss who puts on work clothes and strolls out onto the factory floor so he can see what kinds of things are going on in his business. He didn't even come as a teacher to tell us what to do, although Jesus was the greatest teacher who ever lived. That wasn't his main purpose. He came on a rescue mission. He came because you mean more to him than life. And that's good news. Jesus invaded our world, and therefore the world can't stop us. Secondly, Jesus took away our sin. The news gets even better. See, I have to tell you, here's the thing. In order for the good news to sound good, you have to know the bad news first, right? When I was, let's not say how old I was, but let's say 15 years ago, okay? 15 or so years ago, we found out that we were being audited by the IRS. And if you've ever heard that, IRS audits are terrible, yeah, they are. Yeah. And the funny thing is, 15 years ago when we heard that, I almost laughed because I thought, first of all, I made almost nothing. Carrie was a stay-at-home mom. I made very little money. I pastored a small to medium-sized church. Good people, but we didn't make a lot of money. I thought, why are they wasting their money on us? And in fact, I was so sure that we did everything right because even though we didn't make much money, I took the extra step of hiring an accountant every year, a well-respected accountant, paid good money to make sure we were on the up and up. And so I thought, man, they're chasing the wrong guy here. They're wasting their time. But as the months dragged on and into years, I realized they had something. Our accountant finally came to us and he said, listen, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. And what he'd done is ministers' taxes are a little complicated, and in some ways that's to our benefit, but he had failed to report several $1,000s of taxable income for 2 straight years, just an oversight. And so there was taxes that we owed plus interest and penalties, but that led this agent to decide, okay, I'm going to go after everything. And there was a huge chunk of my income that was considered non-taxable by the government, but he decided that the church had not filled out the proper paperwork. And so because of this loophole, this technicality, we were going to owe a lot of money. So much, in fact, that as I looked at it, I thought, I'm going to be paying this the rest of my life. And again, this was over a process of a long time. This wasn't quick. And our accountant came to us and apologized and said, "This is over my head. I'm sorry. I know I got you into this, but I don't know how to get you out. You need to find somebody better." God provided. There was a family friend of Carrie's that she'd known her whole life who came to us and took on our case and negotiated with the government. And so we only ended up paying what we owed and nothing more. But man, that moment, that couple of years told me what it's like to face a debt that you feel like you can never pay. Some of you know that feeling. All of us should know that feeling to an even greater extent because we face a debt of sin that we can't possibly pay. Not in 1,000 lifetimes. Even if we did good deeds every day from today until the day we died, we'd never pay off all the bad we've done. Because as it says in verse 13, we were dead in our trespasses and the uncircumcision of our flesh, but he forgave our trespasses. And not only that, it says he nailed our sin to the cross. The certificate of debt against us. Think about Jesus when he was crucified. They nailed a sign to the top of the cross that said, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." And that sign was two things. It was the official notice of the charge against him, sedition, that this man claims to be a king. But secondly, it was their way of taking a jab at the Jewish people. Look what we do to your king. And Jesus said, "No, that's not why I'm dying. I could come down off this cross anytime. I'm dying because what's really on that sign are the sins of the people, my sins and your sins, and the laws that we could not keep, the laws of God that we could never keep. All of And y'all, if you've been a Christian a long time like I have, sometimes you forget what a huge thing that is. But those of you who've gotten saved more recently, or maybe you got saved later in life, you still get it. You still get what an amazing, amazing thing it is that all of your sin has been taken away. And there's nothing you need to do. There's nothing you can do. Grace means God will never love you any less than he does right now, and he can never love you anymore. It's all because of his death on the cross, because he chose to die in your place. He has taken away our sin, and so we can walk in victory. The world can't take that away from us. Number 3, Jesus conquered our enemy. I want to show you on the screen verse 15 because I think this is the key verse in the whole passage. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame, triumphing over them in him. And that word triumphing is a very important word. See, in the Roman world, if a big battle was won, and there was always a battle, right? Rome was constantly fighting. But if a general out in Germania or in Asia or in North Africa won a big battle, he would send a messenger to Caesar and say, "I've won. I'm bringing my legions back home. I want you to throw me a triumph." And Caesar had to decide because it cost a lot of money. But if he decided it was an important enough battle, he would throw a triumph. It was sort of like the ancient version of a Super Bowl parade. So the people would line the streets, and the general would come in his chariot, and you know, the white chargers pulling it, and he's basking in the glory, and all the legions would come next, and the women would shout their names, and the little boys would run alongside and want to shake their hand, and then last of all would come the defeated enemy. Stripped of their armor, stripped of their weapons, shackled hand and foot, they would shuffle along as everyone jeered at them and pelted them with rocks. That's what the cross is. It is Jesus' triumph over our enemy. See, the cross used to be the ultimate symbol of degradation and humiliation and death. It used to be the ultimate symbol of Roman power over their enemies. And now what is the cross? The cross is the ultimate symbol of our victory. The cross was intended to kill Jesus in absolute humiliation and show him and his people, we're in charge. Jesus took the cross and made it the ultimate symbol of liberation, of victory for us. The devil himself, when he sees a cross, what he sees is his own humiliation, his own defeat. He remembers that on Good Friday, he poured out all of his fury on the Son of God with whips and nails and thorns and insults of the crowd, only to find out all along he was doing the Lord's work. He was accomplishing our salvation, his worst nightmare. In putting Jesus to death, the devil signed his own death warrant. Because from that day forward, any person who is in Jesus Christ, the devil can't touch them. The forces of evil cannot stop them. Satan has no hold on anyone who is under the blood of Jesus, the Son of God. And you can take that to the bank. You might say, well, so why don't I feel victorious? Why do I still struggle? I would argue out of love for you that maybe it's because you haven't yet accepted that victory. Maybe you haven't truly made Jesus fully your king, and you're still letting the world and the flesh and the devil hold the keys of your life. But you can change that today.